أشهد أن محمد رسول الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدًا عبده ورسوله فصلوات الله وسلامه عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين وسلم تسليما كثيرا. أما بعد، فقد قال الله تعالى في القرآن الكريم بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم: يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. We begin with the praise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our creator and sustainer. And we turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with thankfulness and gratitude for all of His gifts and blessings in our lives. And we seek help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. And we seek refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from any bad desires within ourselves and from our bad deeds. And we recognize that whomever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guides, no one can misguide. And whomever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows to go astray, no one can guide. And I bear witness and I testify that there is none worthy of our worship, our devotion, our servitude, our ultimate adoration, our unconditional obedience, except the one who created us, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is one having no partners. And I bear witness that Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam is His final messenger. May the peace and blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be upon our beloved messenger Muhammad and his wives and family and companions and all those who follow in his righteous footsteps until the end of times. My dear brothers and sisters, I want to begin this khutbah with a story that we find narrated in the books of hadith, that when the Muslims who had gone to Abyssinia came back and they met the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he wanted to know about what had taken place in Abyssinia. He was curious about the land and the culture. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself had never been to Abyssinia. So he was curious, what was the experience of these muhajirin who had gone to Abyssinia? And he asked them on one occasion, he said, أَلَا تُحَدِّثُونِي بِأَعْجَبِ مَا رَأَيْتُمْ بِأَرْضِ الْحَبَشَةِ? Will you not narrate to me the most surprising, astonishing thing that you encountered when you were in Abyssinia? And so amongst the companions, some of them said, yes, Ya Rasulullah, we remember seeing something very astonishing. And what's interesting is it's not an incident about the language or the culture. It's an incident that ingrained itself in the memory of the Sahaba because of the words that were said and the meaning of what was said. They said one time we were sitting in Abyssinia and an elderly nun was walking past from the Christians of the land of Abyssinia. An elderly nun was walking, an elderly Abyssinian nun. And as she was walking, she was carrying on her head a large container of water. She was balancing it on her head and she was walking carefully. An elderly woman carrying water to attend to her needs. And a youth, he decided to play a prank at her expense. And he snuck up behind her and he put his hand on her back and he pushed her. And she tripped and the water container fell, it shattered, the water spilled. Immediately she stood up and she turned around and she spoke these words that the companions are remembering and retelling to the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. This is what we saw in Abyssinia. She stood up and she said, سَوْفَ تَعْلَمُ يَا غُدَرْ. Soon you will know, you traitorous person, you treacherous person. She's saying to the man who pushed her and knocked her over, this elderly woman, she's saying, you will know, O treacherous person, إِذَا وَضَعَ اللَّهُ الْكُرْسِي وَجَمَعَ الْأَوَّلِينَ وَالْآخِرِينَ وَتَكَلَّمَتِ الْأَيْدِي وَالْأَرْجُلُ بِمَا كَانُوا يَكْسِبُونَ فَسَوْفَ تَعْلَمُ كَيْفَ أَمْرِي وَأَمْرُكَ عِنْدَهُ غَدًا. She said, you will certainly know, O treacherous person, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gathers His creation on the day of judgment, the first of them and the last of them, in front of His divine throne, and the hands and the feet testify about what they have done in this worldly life. On that day you will know what is my situation and your situation in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ heard the companions tell him these words, he affirmed what she said. He said, Sadaqat, Sadaqat. She spoke the truth. She spoke the truth. كيف يقدس الله قوما لا يؤخذ لضعيفهم من شديدهم. He said, how will Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ever purify or honor a nation that does not take the right for its vulnerable and weak from those who have power? How will Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ever honor a nation in which those without power are not protected from those with power, in which the strong oppress the weak? How will Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ever honor an unjust nation? This became an important lesson in Islamic civilization about the concept of justice. And the concept of justice is something that you will find throughout the Quran and Sunnah. And we'll mention some of the important points related to this. But just on this last point, think about the statement that was mentioned by Al-Imam Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, that many of the early scholars used to say, إِنَّ اللَّهَ تَعَالَى يَنصُرُ الدَّوْلَةَ الْعَادِلَةَ وَإِنْ كَانَتْ كَافِرَةً وَلَا يَنصُرُ الدَّوْلَةَ الظَّالِمَةَ وَلَوْ كَانَتْ مُؤْمِنَةً. That verily Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will support and help and grant aid to a just nation, even if it happens to be a disbelieving nation. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not grant His support or aid to an unjust nation, even if it happens to be a believing nation. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will always help the nation that is standing firm on justice. Why is that the case? We go back to the Quran. We find in the Quran, it mentions in Surah Al-Hadid, the reason for which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent the messengers is so that people uphold justice. And this shows us the importance of justice within our faith. That Islam has made iqamatul adl, the establishment of justice, the pinnacle of the value hierarchy. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Hadid, لَقَدْ أَرْسَلْنَا رُسُلَنَا بِالْبَيِّنَاتِ وَأَنزَلْنَا مَعَهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْمِيزَانَ لِيَقُومَ النَّاسُ بِالْقِسْطِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that verily we sent our messengers with clear signs, clear proofs. And we sent down to them, we revealed to them the scriptures and the scales of justice, so that people may uphold fairness amongst themselves, so that people would uphold justice amongst themselves. Imam Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah, في كتابه الطرق الحكمية, in one of his great works on Islamic law and jurisprudence and governance, he mentions about this verse. He says that this verse establishes that the reason for sending the messengers and the reason for which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has revealed His divine religion is so that we affirm and establish justice in our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and in our relationship with the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The entire deen of Islam revolves around this central value of justice. And he said, therefore, whenever a path towards justice becomes clear, it is part of the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, wherever and however it can be achieved, the importance of justice. And this is especially important in our times, brothers and sisters, because many people now are awakening to the reality that we live in a world where the presiding world order is founded upon injustice. The presiding world order today is a colonialist, capitalist, hegemonic world order that subjugates the weak, brutalizes those without power for the profit and the interests of corporations like the military-industrial corporation and others. It is an order that people are awakening to, that this is an order that claims to champion human rights, but in fact, it denigrates human rights. It violates human rights. There is no justice, and people are asking, where is the justice in the world today? And especially us, as we see, brothers and sisters, the injustices taking place today, afflicting our brothers and sisters in our deen, our brothers and sisters in Gaza, in Palestine, undergoing the ongoing genocide. And we've seen the recent escalation of killings in the West Bank, while the Western world and Western civilization turns a blind eye. Where is the justice? We open up the news reports, we open up CBC, Toronto Star, Globe and Mail, we're looking, where's the headlines about people being killed, children being slaughtered? And there's absolutely nothing about it. Why is that the case? Because of how thoroughly Muslims and Palestinians have been dehumanized in the Western psyche, that they're not even worthy of mention. And there are studies that have talked about the dehumanization of Muslims and Palestinians in the media. But this is the injustice that not just Muslims are recognizing. Many people from all different walks of life are recognizing the injustice taking place in the world today. And people are crying out, where is the justice? And therefore, my dear brothers and sisters, this presents us with an important opportunity to rise up, to affirm the values that our faith calls us towards, and be torchbearers of justice in our time, to be anchors of justice in our time, to be the forerunners in calling people and reawakening the moral conscience of the world in which we live, to rise up and to renew its commitment to justice. Because people have recognized that this current situation has no care or concern. The current political situation and those in power have no care or concern for justice. And people are seeking answers. Many people have been inspired by the faith of Muslims during this time, the faith of the Palestinians. And they have embraced Islam, recognizing that this is the path that calls for justice. This is the path that calls for justice in our times. And so this is an opportunity for us, my dear brothers and sisters, to understand our deen's commitment to justice and to be witnesses to justice in our times. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, kunu qawwamina lillahi shuhada'a bil qist. In Surah Al-Ma'idah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, O you who believe, stand firmly before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Be steadfast in your commitment to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as witnesses for justice. And in Surah An-Nisa, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, kunu qawwamina lil-qisti, kunu qawwamina bil-qisti shuhada'a lillah. O you who believe, be firmly standing and be steadfast in your commitment to justice as witnesses before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now look at the subtle difference in the wording between these two surahs. And my dear brothers and sisters, nothing in the Quran is coincidence. Everything has an eloquent reason behind it. And look at the subtle nuance in the eloquence of the Quran. Why is there this difference? One of the scholars of tafsir, Imam Abu Hayyan al-Andalusi, he mentions that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in Surah An-Nisa, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions our commitment to justice first. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions our commitment to justice first. And then mentions our being witnesses before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because the very next verses mention, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَوْ عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَوِ الْوَالِدَيْنِ وَالْأَقْرَبِينَ. Even if it's against yourselves, or your parents or your family members. Now a person wants to give their own family more than what is due. A person wants to give themselves more than what is due. So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions justice first. Be just. And when it comes to Surah Al-Ma'idah, there Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions our commitment to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first. And then our commitment to justice. كُونُوا قَوَّامِينَ لِلَّهِ شُهَدَاءَ بِالْقِسْطِ. Why? Because there the next verses are talking about our enemies, the people we don't like. وَلَا يَجْرِمَنَّكُمْ شَنَعَانُ قَوْمٍ عَلَىٰ أَنْ لَا تَعْدِلُوا اِعْدِلُوا هُوَ أَقْرَبُ لِلتَّقْوَى. Do not allow the animosity of another group towards you allow you to swerve away from justice. Be just, for that is closer to taqwa. Because when it comes to somebody who has hatred towards you, you don't feel like being just. So there Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, do it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It reminds you that you're accountable not to any other human being, you're accountable before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this life. Now my dear brothers and sisters, when scholars, historians, academics study Islamic civilization and they see that in the Islamic civilization at the top of the value hierarchy is this concept of iqamatul adl, establishing justice. Whereas what we find today in Western civilization and in secular modernity, in modern culture, what has become the chief value has been ittiba'ul hawa, following of desires. Those who are rich and powerful, the elite, they follow their desires. They affirm their freedom at the expense of the rights of those who are suffering around the world. And that is creating this moral dissonance for people as they're seeking moral answers for the situation that we're living in. But now reflect on the fact that in these verses Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks us to be witnesses for justice. What is the significance of a witness? If you imagine a situation in which you're in an altercation, let's say you get in a fender bender, you get in a car accident, and now this other driver is claiming that it's your fault, and you're claiming that it's this person's fault. One of the first things people will do is they'll look around. Who are the witnesses? Because the witnesses are the means through which justice is established. And that is why some of the first people who were targeted by the genocidal regime, by Israel in Gaza, some of the first people who were targeted were the journalists, were the doctors, were the professors, those who are witnesses, those who are standing as witnesses to the truth of what is taking place. Because that is the means for justice to be established. And so my dear brothers and sisters, when you continue to speak the truth, you continue to use your voice to advocate for the rights of the oppressed. And by the way, Islam teaches us to advocate for the rights of all the oppressed, wherever and whoever they are, not just Muslims, but all humanity. When you advocate for the rights of the oppressed, you are standing as a witness before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, a witness for justice. And this is the important calling to which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds us in the Quran. This is our commitment that we're constantly reminded. Think about the fact that every Jumu'ah khutbah concludes with the verse from Surah Al-Nahl where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَأْمُرُ بِالْعَدْلِ وَالْإِحْسَانِ. Verily Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands justice and excellence and kind treatment of one's relatives, and He forbids all forms of immorality and injustice. This is again a reawakening to our commitment to justice. So remember the importance of justice in our faith, my dear brothers and sisters, and be beacons of justice in our time, taking up this responsibility in our communities, in our activism, in supporting the efforts of those who are speaking on the side of the oppressed, those who are speaking truth to power. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين واستغفروه إنه الغفور الرحيم. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. My dear brothers and sisters, justice is so important from the Islamic perspective. It is not just a nice optional virtue to have. It is something that is written into our theology. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in a hadith Qudsi, Ya ibadi, inni harramtu dhulma ala nafsi, wa ja'altuhu baynakum muharraman fala tadhalamu. O my servants, O my beloved servants, verily I have forbidden oppression upon myself, and have therefore made it forbidden amongst you. So do not oppress one another. It is part of our theology. It is part of our understanding of the structure of reality, the nature of the cosmology. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in Surah Al-Rahman, وَالسَّمَاءَ رَفْعَهَا وَوَضَعَ الْمِيزَانِ. By the heavens that He elevated and He established the mizan, the scales, which the scholars of tafsir mention means أَثْبَتَ الْعَدْلِ. He established justice. Imam Ibn Khaldun, the founder of sociology, the great thinker on the rise and falls of civilization, he mentions that injustice is one of the reasons for which a civilization perishes. And whenever a civilization allows injustice to become rampant amongst them, this is one of the signs of the downfall of that civilization. And this is what many political commentators, what many analysts, what many economists are talking about today, is that we're witnessing the collapse of a world order that was based upon an illusion of morality, but was actually founded upon injustice. And this is where we as Muslims have an important opportunity, my dear brothers and sisters, to convey the message and the importance of justice. There are many people who are searching for this message at this time. And if you think about it, the speech that Ja'far ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anh, he made to An-Najashi, the Negus of Abyssinia, when he was asked to present the message of Islam, what did he present to him? He mentioned about the justice of Islam. He said, "Oh, great ruler, verily we were people who would worship idols. In other words, we lack justice in our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with our Creator. We would eat the dead meat, we would eat carrion. We lack justice in our commitment to our own body, our physical health. We would na'ti al-fawahish, we would commit acts of immorality, sexual immorality. We lack justice in our marital commitments. We would cut the ties of kinship. We lack justice in our relationship with our families. We would mistreat our neighbor. We lack justice in our relationship with our communities." And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent, and He said, وَيَأْكُلُ الْقَوِيُّ مِنَ الضَّعِيفِ. And the strong, the powerful would gobble up or would eat up or trample the rights of the vulnerable, the weak. And then we were in that condition until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent to us a messenger whose honesty, integrity, and trustworthiness we knew and recognized and affirmed. And that messenger called us to the worship of one God, and to leave off the worship of the idols that we had been previously worshiping along with our ancestors. And He called us to be truthful in our speech, to uphold the ties of kinship, to have good treatment of our family and our neighbors, and to establish justice in our society, in our community, and to restrain from all types of indecency and immorality and bloodshed and oppression. When He described the deen in this comprehensive way, and then He said, "That is why we came to your land, O noble king, seeking your justice. We chose you over others because we knew of your justice. We knew we won't be oppressed in your land." Now think about this, my dear brothers and sisters. The reason for which they selected Abyssinia was because they recognized the justice of the king. And had they not gone to Abyssinia, he would not have been guided to embrace Islam. So it was through his justice and Najashi's justice that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made that a means for him to be guided to the truth of Islam. And that is a universal principle, that justice is what brings people to Islam. And Islam is about establishing justice. I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enable us to be torchbearers of justice in our times, and to stand up for the rights of the weak and the oppressed. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب. اللهم أعز الإسلام والمسلمين. اللهم ارفع الظلم عن المظلومين في كل مكان وفي كل بلاد يا رب العالمين. اللهم انصر إخواننا المستضعفين في فلسطين، في غزة يا رب العالمين. اللهم كن معهم، اللهم احقن دماءهم، اللهم اشفي جرحاهم، اللهم أطعم جياعهم يا رب العالمين يا قوي يا عزيز. عباد الله، إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. وأقم الصلاة.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu Ash Muhammad Rasulullah. Hayya Salah, Hayya Falah. Qad Salah, Qad Salah. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. La ilaha illallah.
استووا استقيموا سد الخلل. Close any gaps. There's still some space at the back, I believe, in the musalla, so try to fill in that space. Straighten the rows, close any gaps in front of you. Are we full at the back now? Okay. Sure that the rows are straight. Sense the majesty of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in your heart. Allahu Akbar. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما إنا عرضنا الأمانة على السماوات والأرض والجبال فأبين أن يحملنها وأشفقن منها وحملها الإنسان إنه كان ظلوما جهولا ليعذب الله المنافقين والمنافقات والمشركين والمشركات ويتوب الله على المؤمنين والمؤمنات وكان الله غفورا رحيما. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وآمنوا برسوله يؤتكم كفلين من رحمته ويجعل لكم نورا تمشون به ويغفر لكم والله غفور رحيم لئلا يعلم أهل الكتاب أن لا يقدرون على شيء من فضل الله وأن الفضل بيد الله يؤتيه من يشاء والله ذو الفضل العظيم. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. الله استغفر الله. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Brothers and sisters, a couple of quick announcements. There is a family halaqah tonight here at Al-Falah. The topic is Nation Builder Stories of the Prophets with Sheikh Riyad Azazi. And MCNA Oakville Friday Islamic classes, first semester is taking place September to December 2024. Semester fee is $125. Online registration is open. MCNA iknasistersca.org/Oakville. Jazakumullahu khairan. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Brothers, please help to roll up the carpet. Please help to roll up the carpet in the gym area. Jazakallah. Brothers, please help to roll up the carpet. Please help to roll up the carpet in the gym area. Jazakallah.